In the mid to late 1980s, console gaming in North America was ruled by one company, Nintendo. If you were gaming on anything at the time, chances are it was the Nintendo Entertainment System. But if you like to live life dangerously, you may have had the Sega Master System. While it was the more powerful of the two, and had a worthwhile lineup of games for owners of the system, it was nowhere near as successful as the NES, at least in the aforementioned North America, having only a fraction of the region's market share. Luckily for Sega, however, all of that would change with the launch of the Genesis on August 14, 1989. Although it wasn't immediate, it would be the first system to successfully challenge Nintendo's reign. Because the Genesis was released in a time before these kinds of things were more thoroughly documented, the exact launch lineup of games is a bit unclear. Many sources claim there were 6 games, while others say as many as 8. Regardless, most tend to have slightly different lists. So, let's take a look at the 7 games most often referred to as Genesis launch titles, and see what early adopters of the powerful new system had that enticed them away from the juggernaut that was Nintendo. To make things easy, let's go in alphabetical order. Starting things off is Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, a platformer starring a kid with sideburns who decides to go in search of his father on a mysterious planet that takes rock, paper, scissors very seriously. What do I mean by that? Well, by betting your in-game currency, you can battle an assortment of gorillas and whatnot to win various items that can help you through the game, such as a motorcycle, a helicopter, or some weird levitation staff. Now, if you're not familiar with Alex Kidd, he was actually Sega's big platforming mascot and main competitor to Mario before Sonic. Well, him and Michael Jackson. In fact, this was actually the 5th game in the Alex Kidd series, so he was a fairly established character by this point. At least to people who had the Sega Master System. The game has a great vibe to it, not taking itself too seriously. I mean, I love how Jason Voorhees is randomly just one of the enemies in the forest level. All around, it has a very fun cartoony look and feel, which was one of the Genesis's strong points. It's also very Japanese, with voice clips saying the Japanese Jon Ken Pon during your rock, paper, scissors battles. To add to this, there's the fact that you pick up rice balls to finish each level. Surprisingly, the manual doesn't try to hide this. Unlike, you know, the Pokemon anime.
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite! Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut!
One thing that definitely sucks is how easy it is to die. One hit, and it's back to the last checkpoint. This isn't helped by the fact that the movement is a bit slippery, leading you to accidentally sliding into enemies. Because of this, getting the crown power-up that lets you turn your punches and kicks into projectiles is essential. In the years since its release, the game has been mostly panned by critics, and it's understandable. Putting such a big emphasis on something as luck-based as rock, paper, scissors is likely to cause some frustration. Well, that and the fact that it's so easy to die. But it's enjoyable for what it is. Its oddities, if anything, make it worth playing. Next up is what is probably the most well-known game of the Genesis's launch, Altered Beast. Why is it well-known, you ask? Well, it's definitely not for being good. In Altered Beast, you take control of a dude trying to save a lady or princess or something, as was the style of the time, who must battle his way through hordes of monsters, picking up power-up orbs as he goes.
Power up!
Upon getting these orbs, he gets buffer.
Power up!
Except for his tiny head for some reason. until he reaches the highest level, at which point he transforms into the Altered Beast. Now, getting this transformation is admittedly satisfying. Going around kicking everything's ass as this powerful creature is very fun, though it's a shame the villain takes away your power-up orbs at the end of each stage. Well, at least he gives you your clothes back. Anyway, there are 5 of these beast forms, one for each level, though the 5th one is just the first with a different color. While playing as these beasts is generally fun, the lead up to this point is not. The game basically goes in a loop endlessly until you get to your beast form, and playing in the human form is just so incredibly lame. If you manage to get all the power-ups in the first loop, great, you're already at the boss. But otherwise, you'll have to start over and hope you don't lose too much health and lives. The bosses themselves are pretty easy to beat, except the 4th one, which in combination with its annoying patterns and the 4th beast being easily the worst, is just a pain. Besides that though, even beating the final boss can be easily cheated. Seriously, this final fight seems tough. Until it isn't. Wow, that doesn't seem earned. After you beat him, you save the girl, who it turns out is actually an altered bird, I guess? Anyway, she transforms into her human form and you don't. I guess that's what she's into. Then live happily ever after. Okay, it's kinda funny how the credits just push the hero aside like that. It's a pretty short game, and isn't too hard to beat if you change the difficulty and number of lives and health. I mean, it is based on an arcade game after all, so that's not a big surprise. Should you play it now? Well, if you're looking for a good game, no. But as a curiosity, it's totally worth it, if for nothing else than the incredibly cheesy voice samples.
Rise from your grave.
God, I love that. And now onto Last Battle. Like Altered Beast, it is a side-scrolling brawler. Though, unlike that game, the enemies here are human. Whether or not that is better than beating up monsters really depends on personal preference, I suppose. Fans of anime may have already noticed that this game looks an awful lot like Fist of the North Star. And that's because it is a Fist of the North Star game. In its Japanese rendition, here, instead of Kenshiro, you play as Erzak, though a lot of the overall plot is unchanged, as you can see in the game's way too fast-moving opening crawl. Of the changes, my favorite is the fact that you fight using a martial art style known as Jet Kwon Do. That is just so stupid, it's awesome. One of the lamer changes, which is to the game's actual gameplay, is what happens when you hit an enemy. In the American version, they fly off screen. In the Japanese version, they do this. Man, that is just infinitely more cool and satisfying. Another change is how in the American version you're facing off against this green Hulk Hogan dude. In the Japanese version, it's just Hulk Hogan. Also, you gotta love the Japanese boss battle defeat animations. Well, the American version is at least not too different. Enough about the regional differences, let's talk about how it plays. Well, it's kind of RPG-esque. You have a world map you can tackle in whatever order you please. At the end of each side-scrolling area, you meet a character who increases one stat or another. And when you defeat enemies, you have an experience bar that very slowly fills up. After getting to the first level up, this happens. Also, your punches and kicks look different now. It's actually pretty cool. One aspect that's really not cool though, is that there are no lives or continues in this game. Die once, and it's back to the title screen. There is a cheat to get around this, but it only takes you back to the beginning of a chapter. And despite all the areas I cleared, they were all technically part of the first chapter. there is not much of a reason to play Last Battle now. But if you are gonna play it, make sure it's the Japanese version, if for no other reason than to see some of that 16-bit gore. Space Harrier II may be the simplest game of the Genesis's launch. You control a guy with a big gun as he quickly runs and flies through colorful environments, fighting an assortment of strange creatures and robots. And that's about it. The game has this fake 3D effect that may have looked good at the time, but it definitely hasn't aged well. Things don't gradually increase in scale since, well, that wasn't something the Genesis could really do. Instead, they continually pop into larger sizes until they reach you. This makes running into things very easy. Speaking of running into things, the voice clip you hear upon losing a life is very clear for a game this old.
Get ready?
That's definitely better sounding than any of the voice clips in Altered Beast or Alex Kidd. Though, I guess they only had space for one high-quality voice clip, since the one you hear when taking a hit is about on par with Altered Beast. Space Harrier II is very hard, and you need to get through 12 levels to beat the game. But if you want to see all the levels, you don't need to be particularly good at the game, since you can choose what level to play first at startup. That's a cool little touch I can get behind. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people picked up this game for its wild box art. I know I probably would've. I mean, what the hell is even going on here? It's so strangely intriguing, you kinda want to know what kind of experience it's going to be. Still, this is a game you will likely get bored with very quickly. Though I guess you may also get obsessed with mastering it and beating all 12 levels in a single run. If you want a better version of the same game, I'd go with the first Space Harrier. As it's an arcade game, it doesn't have that awkward pop-in effect, and is an overall smoother experience. Super Thunderblade. This is a game that plays very similarly to the one I just talked about, Space Harrier II, but I still stand by that game being the simplest of the Genesis's launch. You fly around in the world's most badass helicopter. 1,000 fighter jets? No problem. You can shoot them all down with your guns and homing missiles. That's one thing I like actually. After every few blasts, you send out a homing missile, so you don't have to be a complete master of aiming to take down your enemies. That's one thing that differentiates it from Space Harrier. Another thing is that you can stop and hover in place. This becomes especially necessary in the stages that have obstacles you need to avoid. And of course, the biggest difference is the occasional variation in combat style. At the end of each stage, you switch to a top-down shooting mode where you take on an enemy fortress. Get to the end and you blow it up. That's a pretty great way to end a level. Visually, the game is quite impressive. There are only 4 levels, but they each have a distinct look, with unique methods required to get through each. And you gotta love this crashing animation. It also does a better job with the perspective of enemies and projectiles than Space Harrier. I didn't have the same problem with running into things as I did in that game. I do have a minor complaint with the game's huge difficulty spike in the 4th level, but it's not enough to derail the game completely. Super Thunderblade is very fun, and is one of the standouts of the Genesis's launch. And now we go from Super Thunderblade to Thunder Force 2. I guess Thunder was the 1989 equivalent of the word Origins. As with the previous 2 games, this is another one where you fly around and shoot things, though it's not quite played from the same perspective. It alternates between being a free-roaming top-down shooter in one stage to a more traditional side-view space shooter in the next, then back again. In both modes, you get a ton of cool weapons and power-ups you can mess around with, some better than others. Personally, I found the top-down levels to be a bit lacking. You fly around shooting everything, with the goal being you have to find and destroy the enemy bases. But the game doesn't tell you this, and finding these bases is not easy. I could see people getting stuck on this level and never getting past it, especially in a time before the internet as it is now. There's that, plus you can't hover in place like you could in Super Thunderblade. The constant movement needed to avoid enemies and projectiles, which are always all around you, along with the narrow field of view, can lead to some pretty sore thumbs. That said, the side view levels are much more fun. They have the exact kind of action you'd expect from something like Gradius or R-Type, and the perspective gives you much more time to react to obstacles compared to the top-down levels. All of this leads to a vastly better experience. Oh, and I better mention that this game has one badass soundtrack. This is exactly what I want to hear when blasting away enemy ships. There are people who consider this to be the best Genesis launch game. I can totally see the appeal, though personally I preferred Super Thunderblade. Still, if you didn't mind the game's overly hectic top-down levels, this definitely would have been a good one to pick up at the time. Up next is Thunder Lasorda Baseball. Sorry, Tommy Lasorda Baseball, the Genesis's mandatory launch sports game. First of all, look at this guy. Is this really the face you want on your game? Is this really gonna make kids say, I have to own this game? I guess the fact that it's baseball was enough. It's really something you'd only play if you like baseball and don't really care about specific players or teams. There's definitely no real teams involved, just generic ones from real cities. The game only licensed Tommy Lasorda's likeness, and that's it. So, I'm not one to talk about a baseball game, but man, I could not hit the ball. There's nothing to indicate how I should hit it, like which positioning is good. You just swing and hope the bat makes contact. Well, I will say, the effect of the ball flying in the air after a hit is pretty cool. And again, this is a game that used a lot of voice samples.
Right!
That definitely seems like an aspect Sega was making an effort to show off with its new system. There's not a lot to say about this one really, it's a baseball game. There's something about sports games from this era that just make them so depressing, so I'm not gonna dwell on this one. But that would be a lackluster way to end things, wouldn't it? End on a depressing old sports game? No way. Let's take a look at one more early Genesis game.
Game's over, Tommy.
Ain't over till it's over. Genesis by Sega. It's a whole new ball game.
Ghouls and Ghosts. This is a game that some sources state as being a Genesis launch game, but Sega themselves say it didn't come out until September of '89, which would have been a month after the system's initial release. Could be the mistake of a social media intern, but I doubt it. I'm gonna take Sega's word on this one. Ghouls and Ghosts is the sequel to the similarly titled Ghosts and Goblins. You play as the knight Arthur as he attempts to rescue his beloved Princess Prin, who has once again been kidnapped by ghosts, minus the goblins, but with the addition of ghouls this time. I'm assuming. It's a fairly straightforward action platformer. You make your way through various spooky environments fighting whatever monsters come at you, using an unlimited supply of thrown weapons, plus the occasional special gold armor power-up. Let me tell you, this is no easy game. It's 2 hits and you're a pile of bones. I guess that's better than Alex Kidd's 1 hit. With enemies and deadly obstacles constantly heading your way, you need to be vigilant if you want to make it through this one. With a certain degree of skill and practice though, you should be able to do it. One thing that really gives this game a big boost is the fact that you have unlimited continues. In fact, when you continue, it even takes you back to the most recent checkpoint, which is unexpected for a game from this era, but a huge relief. This makes me wonder why the game even has lives or a continue screen to begin with. In terms of comparing the Genesis with the NES, this game would have actually been a pretty great example at the time. Looking at it side by side with its predecessor, it's clear which system was technically superior. Yes, it is hard, but fans of challenging platformers are likely to have a good time with it. Ghouls and Ghosts is a total classic. Maybe not a timeless one due to its gameplay quirks, like its not so great jump in, but a classic nonetheless. It may not quite have been a Genesis launch game, but it still would have been a great pickup for early adopters of the system. Hey, what do you know? We're done! All 7 Sega Genesis launch games, plus one of the best titles early owners of the console could have owned. It may have been a bit of a rocky start, but the Genesis would quickly pick up steam and go on to become Sega's best-selling system ever, and rightfully so. It's an awesome little machine. Well, with that said, as always, thanks for watching The Legend of Games.